Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. This is our second video in the series of Get to Know the Worship Team. I don't even know if I'm really calling it that, but that's what we're doing. So on this one, we are here with Cody and Mandy Shasso, and they've been on the team for a little while. So how are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Yeah. Okay. They told me they took. Cody has notes. Mandy does not. So we'll see how this goes. And I have a clock running, so Mandy knows how much time we have and all that stuff. So, by the way, the clock is not absolute.
Okay.
But it'll help.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
well, let's just get started. I'm going to ask you guys the same questions that I asked Sue and Dana. Why don't you guys share a little bit of your testimony? How did you come to Christ? What are some of the big things He's transformed in your life since then? And I will let you go. Go. Who wants to go first?
I'll go. So I'm pretty sure I've told you this multiple times, and a lot of people in the church have probably heard like the big testimony. But so like little backstory. I didn't grow up in the church or anything like that. We were the type of family that we'd go to church maybe once or twice a year on Easter, Christmas, whatever. And then, but like growing up, like I've always had, like my father would tell me like stories. He'd read me the Bible when I was younger. Mm-hmm. So like I had the like general knowledge and somewhat of like the morality of it. But just really going through life and just living in sin and not knowing that I'm living in sin, right? Mm-hmm. But one of my, I guess the biggest testimony for me is when our first daughter, when she was 3, Taylor, she's 11 now, she developed like a small little rash like on her elbows and her knees, and I didn't think a whole lot of it, but she wanted to take her to the doctor and get it looked at, and basically doctor prescribed like a steroid treatment. It was like a 2-week thing, gave it to her, seemed to clear up pretty good, and then it just came back a little bit worse. Mm-hmm. So, like, we kind of kept doing that whole thing, like just 2-week steroid thing and then take it away, and then 2 weeks, mm-hmm. And then eventually it just started getting pretty bad. And then they started prescribing like a steroid, ingestible steroid, whatever. And same thing, it helped and would start to get worse when we took it away. And eventually, her rash kind of just took over. Like she would look like she had red sleeves and like red leggings on. It was so bad; it was like a burn almost.
She was 3.
3.
Yeah. Okay.
3 years old. And then not only that, but I think the ingestible. I think that like so she started shrinking down pretty much, pretty good, and lost a lot of muscle and mass and just a lot of weight to the point to where she could barely walk anymore. And like she could barely lift her head up when she's laying down, and so like this thing just kind of became, at least for me, and I know for her quite a bit, like it honestly became my God. Like I had to figure it out, like we would take her to doctors and they said, no, it's eczema, this is what you need, so like we just did that whole thing. Finally we kind of like came across a website that was it's called Red Skin Syndrome, which is like a steroid withdrawal symptom. Yeah. So like we were convinced that that's what it was. Like we were looking at tons of other pictures, like could have been lupus, could have been all this other stuff, but like nothing really seemed to look like what it was other than this red skin syndrome thing. Mm-hmm. So we were convinced that that's what it was. And the only cure for that is to basically cold turkey, not give any treatment, any steroids or anything like that. So that's what we did for like probably a good 3 months. So she was barely turning 3 when this whole thing started. And then fast forward, it's like, 9 months down the road and she's just doing really bad. Like we haven't given her anything for a few months. And so
it's like August and she's going to turn 4 in October. So it was a couple months before her 4th birthday.
Yeah. And then what was the part where you took her to, or the pediatrician about the lump. There was like a lump on her spine.
Yeah, so we were living with my mom at the time, and my mom had noticed this really, really large lump on her spine. And so in my head, the two things are not connected. She's got this skin thing that's really, really bad, and I need to figure that out. But now she's got a lump on her spine. And so in my head, I'm thinking she's regressing from walking to crawling at 3 years old because she's got a lump on her spine. And my first thought is like, it's cancer, it's a tumor, and it's causing all of this. And so I get on the phone. It's a Friday. I'm at the office by myself, and I get on the phone with her insurance, and her insurance basically says, like, you know, we had found a specialist that I wanted to take her to, and so I had to do all this with her insurance. Her insurance says no, it'll take about 6 months for us to be able to get you over to this person. And so I just broke down on the phone with this lady at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. I'm like, you don't understand. You know, I was wailing, my daughter's dying, and like we can't figure out what's going on, and I need to go see this doctor. Yep. And so they ended up working it out. I call that doctor back. Like I said, it's Friday at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm thinking I'll get an appointment in like a week, 2 weeks, whatever. Call the nurse back, and she says, oh, I just had a 3 o'clock cancel. Do you want to take it? And I said, yes. So we go. He's obviously.
And you're in California, and that doesn't happen.
Right.
No. And so we go to our appointment at 3 o'clock. He's very concerned. He actually thinks it's maybe something like meningeal, just because it has to do with her spine. So he sends us to the local emergency room. Local emergency room says her urine looks fine, everything looks fine, but clearly she's in distress. And so they weren't willing to send us home. Right. And so they basically had him jump in an ambulance with her, and I got in my car, and we went down to San Diego, which was like about an hour and 30 minutes south from where we were, to a children's hospital called Rady's. And we get to Rady's, and we're there for like 3-4 days, and they do all this testing, and they end up coming in, and it's a team of like 15 doctors, and they come into this room, and they're basically like, well, she has this autoimmune disease. It's a mouthful. It's called juvenile dermatomyositis, JDM for short. And it's like, it literally is 1 in a million. It's so uncommon that's why nobody was finding what was going on with her. And basically, you're going to be 1 in 3. Either she's going to be fine, she'll never walk again, or it's fatal. Yeah. That was the.
Yeah. And then, so like when we get to this children's hospital, and let me fast forward just a little bit, just to, before all this happened, we were somewhat walking. Before we got married, we did like a pre-marital counseling with a pastor, and he definitely wanted us to go through that before he married us, so we were willing to do it. And like just that part like definitely drew us in closer. So we, you know, he walked with me, his wife walked with her for probably a good couple months, I'd say 2-3 months before we got married. And like we so we're just kind of barely getting our feet wet again, and like trusting in the Lord, and then all this stuff starts happening. So anyways, going back to her being in the hospital. So we get there, and on the wall there, so the way that the rooms are designed, there's like a courtyard in the middle where there's like a playground and like a handball wall, like a chalkboard wall, stuff like that. And then the rooms that you stay in, there's a window and a back door that goes out to that courtyard, so it's like a big circle.
So they come in really quick, though. They come in and give us this diagnosis, and they basically tell us that the main treatment for this is like high dose steroids. And so we're both just like, there's no way, like this can't possibly be.
The steroids are killing her.
I'm like,
you know?
I'm like, freaking out, like there's no way. And so we asked the doctors to leave, and we're just in this room kind of breaking down basically together. And
so the doctor, they said this, and I'm like, well, have you heard of this symptom, red skin syndrome? They're like, yeah, you told us about it. They weren't too concerned about it, whatever. They didn't think much of it. So they're like, we'll give you guys a little bit of time, think about it, whatever you got to do. And then they left. And then like we're just kind of sitting there, and then we look out the window, and there's like a giant wall in that courtyard. And
it's full of chalk. It looks
full
like
of
it's
chalk,
been written
just
on with chalk for
years.
15
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
completely.
And then like I have a picture. I don't. It'll take me forever to find it, but it's written at the top of it, Taylor, God is here. And which is crazy to me, honestly. Like
Yeah,
God was
yeah.
like verbally speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's hundreds of children, if not thousands of children in there, and like there was no other name where it said this person, God is here.
Yeah.
Like why
It's a
just
huge hospital
right?
with
Like
so many rooms.
why just
Yeah.
ours? So that was one thing. And then I was still kind of like, man, if this is the treatment, like it's gonna like I was convinced it's gonna kill her, right? So I call one of my good friends, Jeff Glass, and he basically he gave me scripture to look at. It was Job, basically 38 through 42 through the end of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And just basically God telling Job, like, where were you when, when I created the foundations of the earth and things like just, do you
Yeah.
even know what you're talking about, right?
I'm doing a chronological reading, and I just finished that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and super powerful. He was even like, he's like, I hope this doesn't offend you or anything like that. And then I don't know why he said that. I wasn't offended at all, but I read it, and I was just super humbled. And in that moment, like in my mind, she was gonna die if we gave her this. But I was at the place where if that's what God wanted, then I'm going to trust in him. Like I was at a peace. So whether he healed her, because I knew that I didn't, I know now, but like back then it's easier to say rather than to do, right? But God can use anything. Like he can use a substance and use it to cure you, even if it could kill you. Like he could just do anything. Like
Right.
he created us from the dust. So, so that was like probably my biggest thing. I had a peace that if he were to take her because of that treatment, then I was just I was good with it, right? And fast forward.
So wait, I want to dig
Yeah.
in. I want to dig in on that just a minute. Why were you okay?
I was okay because I just kind of saw everything that was going on.
Yeah.
Like everything that happened so quickly, like the fact that we were there, we were searching so long for all this, and we finally got these doctors. We have a diagnosis, we have a treatment. That treatment I feel like is going to kill her, and like God is showing Himself, He's there, and there's also Scripture given to me, like.
So would you consider yourself born again at this point, or is this before that? Before you crossed that threshold?
I would say probably born again at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but yeah, and like she said, there's one of three outcomes. You're okay, or you don't walk ever again, or you die. And with I think 3-4 years of different kind of treatments, including all of the steroids and things like that, she's in full remission.
Yeah.
Off medication, you have no idea.
Yeah, she doesn't have any flare-ups or anything like that. So I don't
Awesome.
know why it happened, or I guess I know why it happened. It's because
Yeah.
But it was just a very long journey, and it wasn't easy for me, and definitely not for my daughter or my wife. But I think that was my biggest testimony. I don't know if that.
So prior to all this stuff happening, and I know I'm zooming in on you for a second. Were you following the Lord before she got sick?
So, yes and no.
Okay.
So,
okay. Complex answer.
Yeah. So our eyes were like, I guess, reopened, right? She kind of grew up in the church. I didn't. Right? Like I had the general knowledge, things like that. I didn't ever feel guilty over sin or anything like that.
Yeah.
Didn't even think sin was sin.
But that changed at some point there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. After we started doing that premarital counseling, it was like God was beginning to do
okay,
a work
I see.
in my life.
So,
for sure.
okay, help me keep this straight. So in the timeline of, let's say Taylor gets sick here and then she's better here, where did the premarital counseling happen?
It was
Prior.
before that.
Before she got sick?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe,
Okay. That's
honestly,
where I
like
was a little confused because you said earlier you wanted to fast forward, and I think you meant rewind.
I meant rewind. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So sweet.
Yes.
Could continue.
Okay. That is my testimony.
Okay. All
That is
right.
my
All right.
testimony.
Mandy, where would you
Oh man.
What would you add to this?
So obviously we're together through all of this, but I'll back up a little bit. So I did grow up in the church. We were a family who went to church. I don't remember going too often on Wednesdays. I think I went to my youth group on Wednesdays, but I think my mom stayed home on Wednesdays, or my mom and my dad. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in the church. I was, my dad was on the sound team doing, not so much the music, but the sound and all of that. And I think you and I have had conversations too. Like my church that I grew up in was Cornerstone in Simi Valley, which is where
Francis Chan's church. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I also
former church.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's also I went to Calvary Chapel in Simi Valley, which was David Guzik, which he has quite an extensive commentary stuff too. So like I grew up in the church, and I obviously the Lord's going to use it, and so that was a seed that was planted when I was a kid, and I didn't ever truly see like Christianity being walked out in my home. We went to church. We did, all the things that people do going to church, but there was not a whole lot of it in my home.
Okay.
And I didn't have anybody ever like read me the Bible other than my pastors at church or things like that. And so I grew up staying very in the lines that my parents had set out for me, but I didn't really know why. So I was a good kid who didn't do the things that I was told not to do out of kind of a fear and reverence for my parents, which was good, but I didn't know why. And so I hit, 17, 18, 19, and the very second that I had my first taste of sin, I was to the races.
Yeah.
I crossed that threshold, and then I was gone until I met this guy when I was 22. And we, our testimony together is also kind of a similar thing, but, there's a lot of sin and despair in that as well. And,
yeah, because when you met him, wasn't he like in a big hair band?
No.
Or he had big hair?
No.
No.
No, I actually, funny enough, I knew him at that time, but we even the way that we met each other was super funny. So we met each other. Are we off right now? Did you pause it?
No, it's going.
Okay. We met each other on I'm super embarrassed to say it, but like a dating website.
Okay.
And
don't be embarrassed about that. A lot of people meet on dating websites now.
He ended up like messaging me, and I was homesick from work, and he like just continued to bother me and was like, go out with me tonight. And I'm like, I'm sick. And he's like, just go. And so I did. And so
persistence, dude.
Snagged it.
And so we get to dinner, and we're looking at each other, and we're just like, I know you. And we're looking at each other, and so we pull out our phones, and we're looking at all our friends on Facebook. And I mean, we literally if we had 300 friends, 298 of them were mutual.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at each other, and we're going through our friends, and we're like, how do I know you? And he looks at me, and he goes, you're that girl. And I was like, oh gosh.
That girl?
The worst thing you could possibly say. And so we had actually met each other probably like 6 months to a year prior at a friend of mine's house. And we had started talking, and he, like I said, not to share too much of his testimony like prior to me, but he had been married prior to me to his high school sweetheart. And we had talked and just had this really, really nice talk. And I went in to go to the bathroom and came out, and he was gone. And I said to my friend Ryan, whose house it was, I said, hey, where'd your friend Cody go?
I had to get out of there.
He goes, oh, you mean married Cody? And I'm like, oh, like, okay. Like we had just talked, no lines were crossed, but even like phenomenal to know that that's the kind of guy he was even at that point, that even the conversation just felt too real, and he had to leave. So anyway, so I was that girl.
Did he have the long hair?
He did not.
No.
I've seen the picture of you with long hair.
Yeah. But we grew up in that, like, when I moved out to the area that we were in, we grew up going to, I had seen him with the long hair. I just didn't know that it was even him.
Sorry, I'm a little fixated on the long hair, man. It's just like, I've seen the picture, but it's still like, I can't imagine you
Haley
that way.
has it on her phone when Cody's contact photo is him with long hair. I think it's awesome.
Sweet.
So I met Cody finally, and we started dating when I was 22. And And we found out that Taylor was on her way pretty soon after that. And so, like I said, right off the bat, just not walking. And I will tell you full well knowing in this time, knowing that I was walking in sin, but just not having a fear and reverence for the Lord. And so we got together, and it was just basically we started living together pretty soon after that. And so right away I'm introduced, because we lived with them as well, to Jeff and Courtney. And so the four of us just kind of turned into like the four amigos. We were just always together, and we did everything together. And so through that whole process, we're everybody's constantly in and out. One person of the four of us would decide, like, we're done with all of this, kind of the drinking and the partying and all of that. And then the three other ones would follow in suit.
Yeah.
And so,
and just for context, Courtney is your sister.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeff. Not Jeff. Cody. Cody and Courtney are brother and sister.
Yes.
So.
Yes. So, years and years and years of that. And so that's kind of in between where his testimony starts. And so, I'm seeing the Lord like working in these ways, but I'm not knowing how to work this out in my head, because like I have this idea of who I think God is, and what I think he did, and what I think he does, and what I think salvation looks like. And I was just always taught that salvation was something you did on Sunday, and then you went Monday through Saturday and just kind of lived your life. And so that was just what I was born with.
That's what we were modeled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was told that you say a prayer, and then you go about your life, and you are covered by the blood of Christ, and anything that comes after that is
sure,
you're good.
Yeah.
And that was definitely what I was walking in. And so through all this, we ended up buying a house, and we're in that house. And then they had decided Jeff and Courtney had started in like the early part of 2019 on just, going back into this. Like I said, we're all in and out constantly, going back in. And then he followed suit, and I was the one who put my foot in the sand, and I said, I'm not. You guys all have fun doing what you're doing. I'm going to stay right where I'm at and do what I'm doing. And December 1st of 2019, I found out I was pregnant with Zoe. And so that's my sobriety date, because that's the day that I found out I was pregnant with her. And I said, I'm done with all of this. And then through the pregnancy, he's kind of, he's walking with the Lord. He's getting up in the morning and reading and doing all of this. And I begrudgingly did so. And I'm reading. And I had never, ever really sought the Lord in the Word. I remember thinking, like, the Bible is just this big book that I don't understand, and I'm never going to understand it.
Yeah.
I had no desire to get into it or to really seek him in that way. And so watching Cody kind of do that. And so I was in and out. Like, I'd get up and read for, a couple weeks, and then I'd be like, this is so just it's hard to understand. And so through that process, then I'd be going to work in the mornings, and I'd drop off. So I have Zoe, and I'm dropping off Zoe and Taylor with Courtney in the morning, and I'm going to the office to go to work. And I'd drop off the kids, and Courtney was just, I'd walk into the house, and she's just like this light. And I'm seeing this light, and I remember dropping off the kids, and we'd talk for a little bit, and I'd see this light, and then I'd get in my car, and I'm angry. I'm so angry every single morning that I drop off these kids with her, and I love her so much, but I'm like, what is it that she's doing? Like, what is it? And I remember thinking in my head, and I'm having this conversation, like, with the Lord. Like, I'm talking with him, and I'm like, it cannot be that book. Cannot be that book.
Yeah.
There's no way that that's what it is. And so we come out here in December of, 2020 to look for, the property, and end up buying the house and doing all of that stuff. And so we move out here, and initially when we moved out here in 2021, we are in one house. It's a 2-bedroom house, all of us, the whole Glass family and the whole Shasso family. And they had a trailer outside that they would go and like sleep in, but we're all in this small space together. And so we're getting up in the morning, and I'm seeing Jeff and Courtney, get up every single morning faithfully and read their word. I'm seeing him get up every single morning faithfully and read his word. And so we moved out here, and then it was March of 2021. I'm sitting on the couch in that house, and I'm in the book of John, and he literally just turned, if I could have been any more liquid on the floor, like, just turned me into this puddle of just like it was the moment that I died to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember exactly what verse. I just remember that it was in the book of John, and I'm reading it, and it's like this light bulb just went off, and I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. And so that was the moment that I had the realization. But I will say I've been listening to, a couple sermons about just kind of like what backsliding looks like. And so I don't know for sure I know that that's when my head said.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I have had this conversation with myself and with others over the years, and the whole timeline of when you so I just kind of land on this thing of, well, when did you start following him and obeying him?
Yeah.
Right.
Because to me, that's the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, people who say that they were saved but they rebelled for a long time, that they weren't saved back whenever that was. But I don't know. I mean, for the simplicity of telling people what, your testimony,
Yeah.
the moment you start following and obeying, to me, is the moment where he has you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I feel like when you actually feel conviction over your sin and you actually walk in that conviction,
Yeah.
I mean, you might fall, you might mess up, but you still have that guilt and you don't want to hold on to that. And, you're just constantly convicted by the Holy. I think that's when
Yeah.
that you're saved.
Yeah.
Like when the fruit starts showing up.
Yeah.
That's
For sure.
how you know that you belong to him.
Right.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you one more question regarding this, and then we'll move on to the other ones. What's he teaching you right now?
I think for me right now, probably a big one is patience.
Oh, good luck.
I think I've kind of overcome the patience with young children quite a while ago. I mean, we're on our third toddler now, but I think just regular day-to-day life patience. I remember, what was it, like 2-3 weeks ago, I just remember reading in the morning, praying, and specifically praying for patience. And then I can't even remember what happened that day, but where were we at?
I don't remember. Something happened, and I'm
This was
forgetting
recent.
the
This
details
was like
too.
3
like
weeks
a couple
ago.
weeks ago, and I remember thinking in my head like, "Oh, something happened," and I just thought he was gonna freak out about it. And I remember praying in my head. I was like, "Lord, just give him the patience that he needs right now to like get through this with clarity and ease and all of that." And the whole time, he's just like. I'm looking at him and I'm like, there's no way that he's as calm as he is right now with what's going on. And so then we had the conversation later that night while we were sitting on the couch, and he was like, that's so crazy. Like the Lord literally just put the same prayer into our hearts that day. So.
Yeah. So you've been on the worship team for a little while now. Tell me a little bit about that journey, because you both kind of jumped in at the same time.
Yeah.
But you had some experience with leading worship prior to joining our team here.
Yeah.
So maybe start there and
Okay.
then work up to the present.
Yeah. So there was a small church that we went to in California, and it was literally like 10 people congregation, maybe 20, maybe 25 on a good day. But so the pastor would just stand there. He would just lead hymns. And Jeff, of course, he walks up. The pastor says, he can play guitar and he can sing. And like at this point, like I haven't sang. Like I could play
You were
guitar.
a little bit for like your guys's. They used to have like a weekly.
No, that was maybe like 2 weeks prior. Anyways, but like I hadn't sang probably in like 10 years prior to that.
Oh,
So
wow.
him to say that was like, what are you doing, bro? You're setting me up for failure here. So the pastor comes up and he's like, hey, I heard you play guitar, you sing, you can lead worship. I'm like, I don't think so. And a funny story though, the couple that was counseling us for marriage, there was a acoustic guitar sitting in the corner. And this is like, I mean, I'm not walking, I'm not, listening to worship music or anything like that. He sees the guitar. We invite him to our apartment, sees the guitar. It's all dusty. He's like, one day you're going to be a worship leader. And like, for real. And I'm like, in my head, I just kind of laugh.
We both looked at each other and we were like,
like me? No. Like the type of music I would listen to back then was pretty heavy, and like I don't know, just never saw myself going down this road. And like honestly, a big conviction of mine is like it's hard for me to listen to other type of music that doesn't glorify God, and that's just what God does, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But so the pastor says that, and I'm like, that night I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Because like I'm walking and I'm trusting, and
Mm-hmm.
God brings this to me, and I'm like, there's no way I can do this.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm gonna do this. And I was honestly like fighting with myself that night, fighting with God. Like I couldn't even sleep that night, and that kind of just brought me to say, okay, I guess I have to do it. So I'm just gonna walk in it, and if I suck at it, then we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was super simple. It was just me on acoustic, and then we just sang. Mm-hmm. That was it. There was no mics, nothing like that. It was just raw. So we did that probably for a good year, something like that. And then we came here, went to New Harmony for about 6 months. And then that's when I came up to you and let you know I could play guitar. Mm-hmm. And then just kind of slowly got into it, and then started leading worship upstairs for the youth.
Yeah.
And kind of just being your back now. So.
All right. What about you, Mandy?
Well, so I was the one kind of pushing him, like, because that's something that I do that the Lord has to work on with me. But like they'll present, like when Jeff had presented that and he said no, I was like, come on. And he's like, no. Mm-hmm. And so then we started doing that, and I hadn't sang, so I was a big part of like my high school choir and all of that, but I hadn't sang since then. Mm-hmm. We sang at Jeff and Courtney's wedding, and that was the only thing we had done in between like our younger years and getting into to doing worship. And practicing for that small acoustic church, I had not held on to the skill of harmonizing whatsoever. And so that was very frustrating and testing for us, but we just enjoyed doing it. And then when we were here, I think I was the one who kind of nudged you, like, oh, go up and tell him you play guitar. And he's like, no.
Nope.
And it's not that I didn't want to. I'm just kind of an introvert and shy, things like that. But yeah.
And so he got on, and then he kind of started nudging me, and he was like, well, hey, I'm here now, so what are you doing? And so that's when I then came and told you too. I was like, well, I can sing a little bit.
Yeah. So, but you guys are very heavily invested in the student ministry as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Not just leading worship, I think, but that's kind of the thing.
That's part of it.
That's the thing that got you up there.
Yes.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about that, just for the sake of putting the whole picture together.
Yeah. I think after I started playing guitar, acoustic guitar on the worship team, Jimmy approached me, and he just kind of put it in my head, like, hey, we need somebody up there to lead worship. And so, again, it was one of those things, like, kind of going back and forth. I'm like, all right, finally, God pushed me, and I did it. And since we were up there, he said, you guys don't have to leave. You can stay up here and, be a part of this. So we're like, okay, it sounds good. And we just naturally kind of just was involved in it. And, we go to Snowbird and, the summer camps. And it's fun. I like that our kids get to see us grow up doing this. And then, Taylor's almost 12, or she's 11, so she's going to be in that ministry pretty soon. And I think that's awesome that she just gets to come in there, and we're already part of it. So, yeah. Yeah.
Do you, I want to press just a little harder. So what do you do up there in terms of, because, sometimes the youth, let me get that out of the way. Sometimes youth ministries will try to build a youth band.
Right.
And we've had, I've been here for almost 15 years. We've had on and off success with that in the past. I guess what I'm getting to is, are you actively trying to raise up some kids, some students?
Yeah.
In, singing or playing an instrument or in leading worship?
Yeah. So there's been, so John Tyree, He played bass quite a bit, and then he grew up and he had to leave. So
Yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah.
but he was really heavily involved. And then Robert Bodie, he's a really good drummer, and he's always been faithful ever since I asked him if he wanted to. And I know that I think they're in Bunker at another church now, so it's been a little hard getting him here. But then then what else? There was Dawson. He played drums. I guess he came to New Harmony quite a bit in the past, and he stopped going. And then John Tyree is the one that introduced me to him, and then he started coming again. He's off to college now, but it's just kind of been a revolving door.
Yeah, he came down and played last summer.
He did, yeah.
In the big band.
Yeah. He was super stoked about that.
And then we've also got quite a few of the girls.
Yep.
So like Ella Schlag sings with us pretty often.
Yeah.
Millie Egger sings with us pretty often. And Delaney, prior to leaving, Delaney Egger was up there with us quite a bit too. So, but we're always like, if you want to get involved, just let us know.
Yeah.
So there's never too many.
So why then, okay, this is it's a different question but related. Why is worship important to you? I mean, this is the ministry you're in, that you've committed yourself to. Why is it so important?
It's important to me because, like we kind of talked about, like I'm pretty quiet and reserved and a little introverted. But so like I'd always be the guy when I was at church, like didn't really sing much, move my lips a little bit, and that's it. Mainly because I'm worried about people around me, whatever, which is not the right heart. And then also God tugging on my heart to lead it, and like just I think that was the biggest area in the church, in any type of ministry that I would have struggled with the most. And that's like the first thing that I came to, that he had me come to. So definitely I overcame a lot, being a part of the worship team, and even prior to that, leading worship at that church before, even though there was 10 people in the crowd, whatever. But I think that's a big importance. Yeah.
I'm going to kind of piggyback off of, I can't remember if it was Sue or Dana that said it. I think it might have been Sue. But Sue, and this is how I've always kind of felt about it, that worship is like this really, really beautiful thing that we get to present to the Lord from ourselves, where we don't take anything, basically, where we're not asking for anything really in return. I'm sure internally there's things that, like we want it to sound decent and things like that. But it's just this sacrifice. It's this, he's given us like these gifts and talents, and then to turn those around and just kind of hand them back to him, basically, I think is just really beautiful. I think we create this like aroma that I hope just rises to him and like pleases him. And like, so that's kind of what I see as we're doing worship, is just kind of him, like, as silly as it sounds, like over the church, just watching and just smiling, and just that it's something that we're doing just for him because we love him.
Yeah. Well, that actually plays well into my next question is, so when we gather as a church, I mean, just when you get up on the stage, like to sing or to play or to fill in for me, Cody, what are your hopes for the congregation when we gather to work and we're worshiping? What's kind of going through your head that you're hoping for everybody?
Honestly, that any kind of burdens or struggles, I just feel like in that moment, like I can have so much going on in my life, and something about praising him and singing and lifting him up and all that, it just, like, I feel like all that stuff is just falls off your shoulders. So my hopes is that when people enter into that with us, that same thing, like any of their burdens, that they're laying it down, and it's just focusing about him, on him in that moment, and nothing else.
Yeah. Okay. Mandy?
Yeah, I would say, it's funny because I think we have to remember too that, like, initially Satan was this angel of worship, of music, and we're taking this thing that can so easily be used for, the music industry is just a really, really dark place to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even, I would say, and I'm not obviously going to point anything out, but even I would say some of the big name Christian artists who present themselves as, this thing that we come into this church and that we take these songs and we're just pouring them out into the congregation, that, like he said, like as you walk in, that there would just be this like that we would just remove everything in that moment. It's really easy, I think, in worship to feel kind of the Spirit moving. It's emotional. It's all of these things. And I think a lot of times for women, that's a little bit easier than it is for the men. And so my prayer would just be that we would be as one in that moment, that those burdens would come off of us, but that we would also be able to look over at our brother and sister and see those burdens and be able to carry them with them. I pray that us as a worship team, that as we're up there, that we're carrying certain burdens and leading these the congregation into that level of like just removal of sin and noticing. And I think it's great too that we get into this prior to entering the Word, because you're just a little more vulnerable when you come into the Word. And I think that's always a good thing, to come into the Word with this like vulnerability, that you're ready to like release these things to the Lord.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's we can turn to a couple places in the Bible where music kind of changes the atmosphere in a good way. David plays his harp for Saul, and the evil spirit departs from Saul when he does that. Is it harp or lyre? I can't remember.
I think it's lyre.
Lyre, excuse me. Lyre.
Yes.
Very important distinction. And there's another interesting one where I think it's Elisha or Elijah, one of those two.
One of the Elis.
I know this story, I promise you, really well, but for some reason right now I can't get it out. But Ahab is wanting to go to war, and he's called Jehoshaphat over and say, "Hey, go to war with me, okay?" And Jehoshaphat says, "Is there a prophet of God that we can consult?" Because Ahab had all his prophets, and they were saying, "Just do it, man.
Right.
It's going to be all right," And Jehoshaphat's a godly king. Ahab isn't.
Right.
And Jehoshaphat knows this is stupid. I want to hear from the Lord's prophet. And so they finally get, long story short, they get Elisha there. Or maybe it's Micaiah. Dadgummit, I wish I could remember. My brain's just not firing on that right now. But regardless, the point is that the Lord's prophet is so annoyed to be there, okay? He says, if it weren't for Jehoshaphat, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
Okay. He has to call a musician over to get himself in the mood, if I could say it this way, in the mood.
Right. Yep.
To prophesy.
Right.
And so, but the point that that's in that is that music moves us.
It does.
Toward the Lord. The right music.
Right.
And like you said, kind of opens the heart. It conditions the heart, and helps us, I guess, remember.
Right.
And makes us ready to hear.
Yep.
So that's such an important thing, and I think that the preaching of the word is an important ministry. It is a primary ministry, but I mean, to my knowledge, there has never been a church where you just have a preacher and you don't have music.
Right.
And the music typically precedes the preaching.
Yeah.
For that reason.
I think like you guys said, music moves your spirit, whether it's good music, bad music, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's going to move your spirit somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, and just worshiping him and praising him with that, like you want to be moved with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
prior
Well,
to
it's like you
entering.
see those videos of, and I've seen a couple of them, I can't remember which one, but it's like the mom will be singing and there's a toddler somewhere in the room who just starts bawling at the mom singing. And it's like this pure, just like, I don't know, it's really beautiful. And I think I just want to give, like, we want so badly to be able to give him back all the good that he's given to us. And so I think this is just one of those ways that we can just say, this is for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, last question. Oh, my thing went to sleep. There we go. How would you encourage anyone who has a desire to serve as a worship leader?
I mean, just do it. I would say just go and talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Obviously pray about it. And, you know, if that desire is on your heart, you know, God will keep it there. He'll keep knocking. And then he's honestly going to keep knocking until you go and open that door, go and ask somebody. So, yeah, get involved, whether it's worship or any other type of ministry. If someone's looking to just get involved in the church, like, that's not a bad thing. Like, it's only going to make you stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It's funny too, because I think so often we get this idea in our head that, like, we have to be these, like, amazingly talented people to do these things, and we put all of that on ourselves. Like, well, I don't think like, I'll just say for me, like, I don't think I sing well enough to do this, or I don't think I do this well enough to do this. Like, that's not. It does need to be in a certain order and all of that, and I get that, but, like, just do it. Don't think so much about yourself.
Yeah.
And what you are or are not.
Yeah.
Because if he's leading you to that, he's going to be the one that puts those into your mouth or on your fingertips or whatever it is. He's going to be the one that leads it anyway.
There needs to be a basic skill set
Yes.
present.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, you don't have to start out at level 10.
No.
Right.
You know,
right.
you just you start where you start, and then you lean on Psalm 33:3, play skillfully.
Amen.
You know, and so you improve your skill, you work on it.
Yeah.
I guess for the Lord first, because there could be multiple, layers involved in that. I mean, you as a personal matter, you want to give the Lord the best offering that you
Yes.
can give him. So you work,
Right.
You work on the skill, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, for me too, like playing acoustic guitar, it's easy now. But when I first started here, I didn't know like a whole bunch of different chords. Like we would only play like a few songs at the old church that I just memorized. I didn't use chord charts, never used a chord chart till I came here. And I'm like, oh shoot, I got to know how to play a, B minor 7. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So like, just get involved in it and practice, and if God's gonna bless it for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you giving me a part of your Saturday morning.
Definitely.
And that didn't take as long as I thought it would. Our timer's been blinking at us for like, I don't know, 20 minutes now. So it's okay. That's what editing's for. So, but we hope this has been helpful to you guys. I hope it's been helpful. I think they do too, and so that you would know them a little bit better. And of course, if you see them out in the hallway, hey, come say hello. They're very approachable, very friendly. Neither of them bite, and so we love you guys, and we will see you at church.